You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.
This is Force 13 live this morning in Australia as we have a live shot of Cyclone Alfred bearing down on Honde Island just off the Coral Sea region of Australia. Currently Category 3 with winds of 120 miles per hour. The Bureau of Meteorology has been watching this storm very intently the last couple of days as there's been a lot of uncertainty on what Alfred will be doing. Good morning to you guys. My name is Timothy Ringo, and no, viewers, you are not seeing things. This is the first time I've been back in the anchor chair in about 2 years. It's good to be back in this chair in an official capacity. Last time you guys saw me was down in New Orleans with Nathan during his North American tour. So we're going to get right into business here. We're going to go back and look at the live shot of Alfred, currently sitting off the northeast coast of Queensland, along with Garance and Honde out in the southwestern Indian Ocean. We will be taking a look at those as well just briefly. As we pan over, you can see Honde down there in the lower left-hand corner. And what is left of Garance, it's looking pretty pitiful right now. But if you look at this storm 24 hours ago, it was a Category 2, borderline Category 3 monster that went through Reunion right around this time yesterday, bringing some devastating damage to that area. Made landfall right around St. Suzanne, Reunion, right around 11:20 local time. Observations did get 99 mile per hour winds in St. Marie, just to the west of the landfall area, and a pressure of 971 millibars. I'm going to fade my team in this morning. It is like 4 o'clock here on the U.S. East Coast, but 6 p.m. over in Australia, where we have David, Kobe, and Blaine. Good afternoon to you, Blaine, over in South Africa. Good evening to you, David and Kobe, over there in Australia and New Zealand. So what are your guys' thoughts on what we have going on with the Southern Hemisphere, which has been very active the last week and a half or so?
Well,
Oh,
go
sorry,
on,
Dave.
go on.
No, you can go. Sorry, you can go.
Well, considering I'm now in under increasing threat from the system, the biometeorology, the key question on the mind of everybody is when are we going to see the biometeorology's tropical cyclone warning center start issuing advisories at 4 p.m. Severe tropical cyclone Alfred, Category 3, with central pressure 963 hectopascals, was located over the Coral Sea near latitude 21.9 degrees south, 155.2 degrees east, which is about 510 kilometres east, east-northeast of Rockhampton, and 445 kilometres northeast of Bundaberg. The cyclone is currently moving southward over the Coral Sea and may move closer to the Queensland coast today before moving southeast and further away from the coast during Sunday and Monday. Alfred may then be slow moving with the chance to turn westward and move towards the southern Queensland coast for mid next week. Strongly gale force winds. Go on.
Yeah, and that has actually been the big question mark. I know a lot of the storm chasers and meteorologists there in Australia, specifically the BOM, are all scratching their heads on is what Alfred is going to do, as its steering has been erratic at times. It's been quasi-stationary most of today, and that is something we are going to touch on a little bit later. We will be looking at the models and seeing what they are hinting at that could be Alfred's fate in the next few days.
I am also, hi everyone from South Africa. Hello. I am. Excuse my mess of my room. I was not really prepared for this live event either because I just joined the green room now this morning. So good morning to you all. Well, Honde and Garance, I got pictures of the eye. There was a picture of the eye that I will, I'm sure Tim will allow me to show it to you guys shortly from Reunion. And I mean, it was quite a big eye once Garance passed over there, and then Honde is still obviously active south of Madagascar. But I will be also here trying to provide you guys some, exclusive coverage since I am the closest to the storm in the team right now. The storms in the team right now, and yeah. So, anyways, back to Tim then.
Thank you there, Blaine. And yeah, there is that picture of that eye of Garance as it went over Reunion yesterday, and looks pretty picturesque there. I know I was keeping an eye on this storm early yesterday morning. The eye wall was open on the left side of the system when it went through Reunion, but it still brought a lot of damage. Some gusty winds in excess of 200 to 240 kilometers an hour impacted the northern parts of Reunion, this being the strongest storm to make that kind of landfall with those winds since Cyclone Jenny of 1962, if I remember my research correctly. So that was the eye there of Garance. And as we go back to our live shot, and we've kind of gone back and forth with them a little bit, you see Honde down there in the lower left-hand corner. This is how it has looked in the past few hours. These shots courtesy of the 413 website with the floaters there. You can go over to 413.com/floaters to get to all of these floaters that are pretty much in real time. And Honde has a pretty good size eye on it. Still category 1, 80 miles per hour. Has been flirting with the southern edge of Madagascar for the last day and a half to 2 days. No warnings in Madagascar right now, which is surprising considering you can see that northern convection touching the southern edge there of the island. And Reunion right now is in a post-cyclone phase. So they are still going through doing damage assessments, safety, and security on the island before they drop their warnings.
I think from what I've heard in terms of Reunion, since my dad has told me that there has been a couple deaths recorded, fatalities, I think already, in terms of damage and stuff. I can, that is just just like a little bit of news. So I'm not entirely sure. I haven't double checked if it's true or if they have gotten damage and fatality assessments done yet, but that is just something to note right now.
All right, and we will keep an eye out for that if we do see anything on the news wires about any fatalities. But our focus for the rest of this stream is going to be on Alfred. As Alfred right now is the biggest threat. Garance impacted Reunion yesterday, and now Alfred is on deck. You can see the decent outflow on it. Does look like it has been getting sheared a little bit today. You can see as the sun has started to set over New South Wales and Queensland area. Decent outflow. Looks like some convective bursts are starting to try to fire back up over the center. But overall, this does look like still a pretty decent storm. I mean, category 3, 120 miles an hour, pressure at 961 is what I was able to locate before we went live. And I would say this still looks pretty good for a category 3. I mean, the convection does look pretty good, and we can actually put...
Oh. Sorry, that's my alarm going off.
Okay, well,
Sorry about that, everyone.
there's one for the blooper
Sorry,
reel.
my dad's just installing a new battery. Sorry, everyone, for that. Talking about just a little update here, guys. I just searched it up on VOA News. I don't know if that's a reputable source, but they are saying police have reported 3 deaths, but they do not know the circumstances of those deaths. 847 people have sought refuge in emergency shelters, and 54 were evacuated due to the risk of flooding and landslides from the storm.
Okay, so that is the latest out of Reunion there. And yeah, now that we got the infrared working on Alfred there, yeah, you can definitely see this system is getting heavily sheared. A lot of the colder cloud tops are getting pulled away, and that has allowed this storm to weaken from a peak of where it was a Category 4 on the Australian scale, right around 125 miles an hour, still holding about 120. And we're going to get over into the models. For Honde, what's left of Garance, and Alfred, and then we will open it up to you, the viewers. As we're discussing this, if you guys do have any questions for the team, you can tag all Force 13 all in text. It'll light up in a nice bright orange for our team to answer. As we're going to be live probably for another 45-50 minutes here, covering Alfred, Garance, and Honde. At this hour, normally Nathan would be running streams on these systems, but considering it is 8 o'clock there in the UK and we know he's been under the weather, we're stepping in and filling in the gaps where we can.
Typhoon Lover says the Garance makes some landfalls. Yes, it did. It made a landfall, I think, Saint Marie. Was it?
It made landfall in Saint Suzanne, which is on the northern edge of Reunion. It's just to the east of Saint Marie. Made landfall at 11:20 local time. Local observations was 100-mile-per-hour winds, pressure of 971 before the observation systems in those areas failed.
And also just to confirm, apparently someone from Mauritius here is saying that they can confirm there was 3 deaths and there is bad damage there in. Well, someone from Mauritius is confirming that there is news from Reunion about the storm.
Good. Okay, so that is unfortunate news to hear. Yeah, if you guys do hear any news out of Reunion, you are more than welcome to post it on our socials. Keyword @Force13 on X. We also have a Facebook page, keyword Force13 there. We would like to see any damaged photos, any information coming out of the Reunion area, as that area was heavily hit yesterday.
I can also show some sea surface temperatures for us just now if we get the chance, but otherwise Tim is going to show us the models shortly.
Yes. So yes, we're going to start in the Southwest Indian Ocean here, as we do have Honde on the left and what's left of Garance, as we've been alluding to, and Nathan's been alluding to on the TWBs all week, that Garance was a very tiny storm, and for a small system like that to make a direct landfall over Reunion is like threading a needle with the probabilities of that happening. But we're going to go through, take a look. This is the GFS for the next few hours. And we're going to take a look, see what happens here. So Garance is going to continue moving south, well away from Reunion. And Honde looks like it's just going to stall and barely move over the next few days. They're right off the southern edge of Madagascar, maybe intensifying just a little bit before it's also going to get pulled poleward. And I know Nathan had alluded to on the TWBs about another system right in that day 5 to day 7 range. And it looks like the GFS wants to develop that borderline Category 1 there right near the northern tip of Madagascar. And looks like another one, this one possibly being a rapid intensification with that system to the east out in the middle of the Southwest Indian Ocean. That one's going to be interesting to watch, as that may be, I want to say that's northeast of Rodrigues, in that area. But yeah, that really takes off. 965, 944. Obviously, this is getting 8 to 9 days out, so you're getting into that mid long range, borderline silly range with that particular system. But still bears watching. The GFS hasn't been too outlandish with some of these systems over the past week or so, so that does bear watching.
The NJO is moving into the area in the next week.
Well, that's a surprise that GFS is actually for once not actually being outlandish and stuff.
Yeah,
That's surprised.
I mean, and chronologically, I mean, we are in late February, early March for the Northern Hemisphere. You're talking that's right around September, October, almost early November. So this is still peak season for these basins. Still plenty of time for a powerful system of this magnitude to spin up and become a threat.
Yeah, definitely. Especially over the last couple of years, there has been some significant threats. I think we all know of Freddy and all of those storms too.
Yeah, Freddy being the most notable one, crossing literally the entire basin for almost 32 days. Very similar to a Hurricane Dawn track, but that was in the East Pacific. Freddy going across the Australian region, Southwest Indian Ocean, and then back out into the Mozambique Channel. Lasted a very long time, longer than most systems in this basin.
And it actually broke many records, such as the highest ace, I think, recorded on a specific system or something like that, and also longest lasting tropical cyclone.
Actually eclipsing John by a couple days there. But we're going to get over into... Like I have two of the same model up, so we're going to go over into the Australian region. And this is where all eyes are currently at, especially if you're watching us from right around the Brisbane, Sydney area. And the main feature is obviously Alfred. I mean, you have what's left of Saru over here, just to the south of Fiji. That's going to be moving out of the way. It's not really going to be an issue. But what Bomb has been talking about, and a lot of the storm chasers down in Australia, what they've been alluding to, is this uncertainty on Alfred's track. And here is your scenario. So right now you have this blocking high right over New Zealand. So this is giving some nice weather to New Zealand. But as we go through the next couple days, you're going to see two key features come into play. You've got this high still over New Zealand, and what that's doing is that's blocking, that would be steering Alfred towards the Queensland coast. But as we go out 24 hours, you get this secondary high that's just coming into this Tasman Sea. And what those two highs are going to do is they're actually going to block Alfred from being able to move poleward towards the south. And most storms, they want to move poleward after a while. That if it's in the northern hemisphere, it wants to go towards the North Pole. Atlantic, you're talking Greenland, Iceland, Europe in that area. Westpac, you're talking up towards the Bering Sea. But Alfred right now does not have that capability. We got two blocking highs, one in the Tasman Sea, one over New Zealand, and they're blocking Alfred from being able to go poleward. That's why we've seen Alfred stalling over the last day or two, because there's just nowhere for Alfred to go. And as we go, this is 36 hours, so as we go 48 hours out, what we're going to have is wind shear is going to continue to impact Alfred. That's why we're seeing its pressures rise to about 980 millibars. You're talking mid category 1. It's going to weaken probably to about 80, 85 miles an hour. And these two high pressures are going to keep Alfred deadlocked. So Alfred's not going to move anywhere, and it's the waters underneath it are going to start getting a little bit cooler, and they're going to start upwelling a little bit, weakening Alfred as it sits over this area. And once we go out about... Go for it.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Tim. Victory Isles says this apparently happens often in the Coral Sea. It definitely seems like, honestly, like especially it's happening. It seems like it's happening much more often nowadays because of 21st century things that I will not get into because it's quite controversial. But just many relating around the weather that I can give a hint. I can give a hint to that, but yeah, it does definitely seem like it is happening more often, but also it does seem like it also seems like it does actually also happen often in the coral sea. So thanks for that observation, Victoria.
It happens often. It happened with Cyclone Alfred
Yeah, go ahead,
in
David.
2019.
Kobe, you come in, mate.
It happened with Cyclone Omar in 2019 and Winston in 2016, where they got blocked on southwards. And then
2019.
Omar.
Omar.
Yeah, I remember Oma. Yeah, it actually had that issue as well that Alfred is having is you got a couple blocking highs that were blocking it from moving where it wanted to go. And you kind of can see this sometimes out in the extreme South Pack too. But the highs don't quite carve their way north enough to really block storms after they get past Vanuatu and Fiji. So they usually race poleward very quickly once they're past those two areas.
Recapping, sorry, Blaine, recapping on the local information. Alfred remains a Category 3, probably to about 1 a.m., 4 a.m. Sunday, local time. Sustained winds in a centre of 140 kilometres per hour with wind gusts to 195 kilometres an hour. It's located within 35 kilometres to 21.9 degrees south, 155.2 degrees east. It is 510 kilometres east-northeast of Rockhampton, 445 kilometres northeast of Bundaberg. It's currently tracking south-southwest at 7 kilometres an hour. The system is moving southward over the Coral Sea and may move closer to the Queensland coast today before moving southeast, further away from the coast during Sunday and Monday. However, now this is a key component. Alfred will remain slow moving with the chance to turn back westward and move towards the southern Queensland coast.
Yeah, and
Strong to go.
And the models do hint at that, David. The slow movement is that first high. It's actually pulling Alfred to the south. But once this second high builds in, it's actually going to slow its movement. And Sun Kim in our chat actually made a good remark asking, wouldn't these two highs pull Alfred towards the coast? And eventually they will. But the problem that you have going 60 hours out is you have both highs trying to compete to be the dominant steering current. And because of that, Alfred is going to be slow moving. Once you get about 72 hours out, this high that's been over New Zealand will eventually move further east. And this high that's been over the Tasman Sea will become the dominant steering factor. And it will start pulling Alfred more towards the west. As the GFS does hit on that, actually pulls it a little bit more towards the northwest. But you are going to see impacts right along the Queensland coastline. Now, the only way that this does not make a landfall is if the high pressures are spaced just enough, and I mean just enough, to where Alfred will have a small corridor where it could slide southward. And we're actually going to take a look at some of the other models to see if that is a possibility. So the GFS says no, it's going to pull Alfred into the coast. So taking a look at the Euro now, and we'll back this up. And the Euro has the same setup. We got our high over New Zealand, and as we go out, there's our secondary high that's going to come in off the Tasman Sea. And the Euro looks like... The Euro is actually very interesting. The Euro is actually forecasting that spacing between the highs just to be good enough where it's going to get a little bit further away from the coastline.
I'd just like to say,
yep, go for it.
I can remember from last year, well, sort of last year, 2 years ago, when Jasper was the headline. Jasper sort of did a very similar thing where that interacted with a high pressure to the south and started heading north and pretty much almost hit Cairns directly. Now, if Alfred hits Brisbane directly, which is looking like it will on most models, then Jasper is officially the wettest cyclone on record. I'm just wondering if something like that could happen with Alfred, where it is very wet.
Looking at the
It will get quite wet from stalling.
Looking at the GFS precipitation model, and it's updated every 6 hours, and anywhere up to probably 800 millimeters in some places. And once it recurves westward with the possibility of going northwest, there is a chance of re-intensification. But it's a very complex system, and as Tim has highlighted the models, but all the models are actually in agreement that a landfall is possible anywhere south of, let's say, Rockhampton to the Queensland-New South Wales border. But looking at the models extensively, within 72 hours, Alfred will be about 260 nautical miles off Cape Morton. And at this time of year, it's the full moon, king tides, and we are going to see a major, or the possibility of major erosion. Bribie Island has already split in two and could be compounded. This is the northern end of Bribie Island, where a sandbank divides Bribie Island from the southern tip of the Sunshine Coast around Caloundra, and those living slightly to the west from the mouth, the northern mouth, there's major concern inundation, and it's one system that continues to have close monitoring, but I think it will be, if the landfall does take place, it'll probably be northern Sunshine Coast to Fraser Island.
Right, and we do have the Bureau of Meteorology's cone on screen there. And while we let the viewers take a look at that, we have Jack now with us. Good morning to you, Jack, there in the UK. I'm pretty sure you, along with the rest of the team, has been keeping an eye on Alfred. What are your thoughts on Alfred and Honde this morning?
Well, I've seen Honde's large eye, and that's all I've seen of Honde. The main focus for me has been Alfred. And as I was saying a minute ago with the Jasper relation, I guess I could call it. I'm not expecting good stuff from this storm, because I remember seeing how Jasper turned north and hit Cairns directly. If it hits Brisbane directly or somewhere around that area, this storm is very large in size and will have a large influence. And I was just about to type in chat, but I don't really need to anymore. Just like we saw with Garance, Alfred doesn't actually need an eye, obviously, to be impactful. It's the same with every storm. Does not need an eye to be impactful in terms of rain and storm surge. that's the main thing that we look for in storms. Sometimes the damage.
Yeah, and just taking a look at some of the ensembles here. The ensembles really do not know what to
Yeah.
do with Alfred. I mean, you do have that center track, which does lean it towards the southeast, and then getting pulled back towards the Queensland coastline, which obviously that's the two high pressures battling it out, and then the Tasman Sea one becoming the dominant one once you get 5 days down the line. But you can see the models are really all over the place once you get out past 5-6 days. Some of them taking it further north up the Queensland coastline, others keeping it off the coastline, and a good handful of them, I'd say a good 12, 13 of them taking it into the Queensland coastline as a possible landfall.
That'll be them. High pressures that are causing all of the uncertainty in them tracks.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure if you guys have mentioned that already though.
We discussed them a little bit with the GFS. We were actually just looking at the Euro before you popped in, and the Euro is right now one of the only models that we've looked at that is hinted that there could be an outside chance that Alfred could slip between both high pressures and actually get poleward and avoid a Queensland landfall.
And Tim, further to...
If there's enough space between them. Go ahead, David.
Further to Alfred, clockwise winds, or go with speeds 15 to 25 knots, increasing to 20 to 33 knots within 300 nautical miles of Alfred. So clockwise winds within 300 nautical miles of the system, and it's going to be 260 nautical miles off to the northeast of my location. And we also have other related warnings. We have a severe weather warning for damaging winds for the Capricornia, Wide Bay, Burnett, Southeast Coast forecast districts. Damaging winds possible about the exposed Wide Bay, Capricornia Coast and Islands tonight. That is south of Rockhampton down to Double Iron Point, which is to the northeast of Gympie.
Well, David.
Go on.
I'd like to know your conditions as of current. Like, what are they? What are your conditions right now?
78% humidity, 25.1 Celsius, east-southeasterly winds, about 2 knots. We have had a bit of rain, but the Brisbane radar is showing up the outer bands to Alfred. The Gympie radar the same. Also, the Rockhampton radar, and Gato Island is the observation station, 992.9 pressure, east-southeasterly, speed 100 kilometres an hour, gusting 124. And it did get to 137 at 1600 hours. And it's some developing news. The Courier Mail on their website, prepare now, and fears Alfred could turn, make collision course for southeast Queensland. But it's going to track southeast. Now, here's another key question. When is it going to stop tracking southwest? When is it going to turn to the southeast? How long is it going to track southeast? When will it slow down and track back? I'm looking at a possibility only a landfall Thursday.
And a lot of the models
Yeah.
are in agreement of that. You're talking 5-6 days down the line. Thursday would align with it. We will kind of go back through some of the models. We looked at the GFS. We've looked at the Euro. So now we're going to look at the Canadian model. Again, most of these have the same setup. And the main thing we're looking at with these models is these two high pressures down here right around the 35-40 degree southern latitude area. These are your two big linchpins as to what Alfred does. If the eastern one is more dominant, then that will block Alfred from going south. If the western one is more dominant, that will pull it north, or will pull it west once this high is out of the area. So those high pressures are going to be the two big linchpins going through the next 3 to 4 days. As to whether or not Alfred actually makes a direct landfall on the Queensland coastline, or if it stays offshore. Canadian pretty confident there of a landfall. Looks like that might be right at the Brisbane area, maybe a little bit north of it. Taking a look at the NavGem. NavGem is, the 12Z, that's outdated. 6Z icon is running right now. Go for it.
Sorry to interrupt you, Tim, but can I please do sea surface temperatures and stuff before I have to go?
Yeah, I actually had a sea surface temperature graphic up for Alfred. Let me pull it back up on screen, and we'll let you go over it with any other synoptic information that you may have.
Before that happens, that place where GFS is expecting a landfall is a place called You're Wrong.
The irony of the name of that town.
That was just north of Brisbane, I think. How far north of Brisbane is that? Around... God, I don't know. But past Noosa Heads.
It'll be to the north of Noosa Heads, double on a point. You've got, what's that beach north of Noosa? You can come in and through Gympie, but it's the system. Viewers, considering that I live to the north of Brisbane, we have been in a cyclone drought since the 70s. I clearly remember the 1974 floods. We had a tropical cyclone out there in the Coral Sea, blocking a high or a ridge, stopped in its, what's the word, feet or, and it just delivered massive amount of rain over Brisbane, which led to the Brisbane flood. So the cyclone drought, we did have a cyclone, I think about 1976, which did a figure 8 along the entire Queensland coast and across the island.
As much as I know you would like to go down memory lane, David, we do have some other information we got to try to get through. We do have the sea surface temperature map up on the screen there. I'm seeing right now Alfred over 27, 28 degree waters, unless some others on the team have more information more readily available.
I'm looking right now, it's around 27, 26, so around about the measurements you're getting there on screen on the full 13 places. So that looks about accurate. Before I go, what is it? Honde is surviving on around 27, 28, and Garance 28, 29. Anyways, it was nice tuning in to talk about all the happenings in the sphere and everything with you guys, but I have to unfortunately head out now. Stay safe out there, anyone who is near these systems, and and I will hopefully see you guys again soon in another stream.
All right.
Mm.
Thank you for coming
Oh,
on.
I certainly
That
think.
was Blaine, everybody. Appreciate your time for coming on air, and stay safe.
Stay safe out there, everyone.
Well, I certainly think that Alfred will head further north than what's expected by the GFS model. But that also depends on whether this high that looks like it's coming in from the I can't remember the name of it. I think it's the Australian Bites. David, do you know?
Great Australian Bight. It's
Yeah,
South
that's the one.
Australia.
Yeah, that's where that other that secondary or tertiary high pressure is coming in from, and that's the one that is like the deciding high pressure, depending on whether it's going to steer into Brisbane or that place that I was talking about called Yorong, or whether it's just going to continue further south. If that high pressure doesn't manage to push in south of Alfred far enough, then Alfred will head further south, and that could mean that Brisbane and even some of New South Wales could be a threat. What's Tim's thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that is why there is so much uncertainty with Alfred. I know when we were looking at model guidance 3 days ago, we were seeing the GFS hinting at a Sydney landfall, but these two high pressures are digging in a lot more northward than what they were, say, 3 days ago. So I'm not going to say that Sydney is in the safe zone as of yet. There is still a lot of uncertainty with Alfred's track, but models are trending to a more confident solution that southern New South Wales may not be in the firing lane. You're probably looking more Queensland, or this is going to possibly push to the southeast and get poleward and maybe either split between Australia and New Zealand, or if it gets pulled more southeast, we could see some blustery conditions from this hitting the New Zealand area.
Now, Tim, I want to draw your attention to a graphic in the live output, the GFS Canadian and the ACMWF.
Very similar models there.
And the ACMWF has a tracking slightly south.
That's almost a direct line from Brisbane for the ECMWF.
Yes, right in between Moreton Island and Stradbroke Island.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at the JTWC cone there right quick. Right now, they are also forecasting weakening, still maintaining minimum hurricane status for the next 5 days, down to right around 65 knots there. And we'll come back up, take a look at Alfred on the live shot there while we get the next graphic in place. And this is the GFS, the CMC, and the Euro models all showing possible tracks. And all three of them are in agreement that those highs down there that we've been discussing all stream down there in the 40-degree latitude area are going to be the determining factor. It's going to allow Alfred to start taking that southeasterly track, maybe try to get poleward, and then as that one high pressure gets in over Tasmania and becomes the dominant high, it is going to pull it back into the Queensland region.
They don't predict that it will recurve once it goes in there, and eventually some remnant energy may hit New Zealand like 10 days out.
New Zealand may be more of a longer race threat. You're probably talking 10, 11 days down the line, but if anything is left, it'll be residual energy, and Alfred should be either post-tropical or a remnant low by that point.
Maybe
even a week.
Possibly a week, depends on what the steering currents do with Alfred.
Yeah.
So we've got just a few
Alfred
minutes
does
left.
look like
Go for
it did look like it was unraveling like earlier yesterday evening, but I'm not sure if it's intensifying or unraveling right now?
It's weakening slowly due to shear.
It's weakening.
Yeah,
Very
it is
steadily.
weakening. Just taking a look at the geocolor with the infrared overlay, you can definitely see those cloud tops are getting pulled away from the center over the last few hours. Few convective bursts have been trying to come back over the top of Alfred, but those outer center desk overcast clouds are a lot colder than we were seeing, say, 2-3 days ago. As for the websites we're using a combination of the 413 floaters and RAM MB. This is the Himawari 9 full disc with the infrared overlay on it for the viewers that are wanting to know what products we're using. So we do have just about 10 minutes left. This is your last chance for you, the viewers, to get your questions in for our team. And for our team to have any final thoughts or remarks on any of the 3 storms that we've covered tonight. We've touched on Garance briefly. We looked at Honde. Obviously, the Alfred right now is the highest threat overall, threatening the Queensland and the extreme northeastern New South Wales coastline over the next few days. So, any thoughts from the team or any questions from our viewers?
With Alfred, have we gone much over what intensity we think it's going to make landfall at? Because we have gone about
That's
over
a
about
good question.
yeah. Should we go over what intensity?
We can take a quick
is
look
weakening.
at the models right quick again just to see what they're hinting at.
Well, the steady weakening and the high pressures to the south mean that the storm won't have too much legs to stand on after it's come close to land. But I think it's just the size mainly, isn't it?
Lowering cable.
Yeah, take a look at the GFS, 982 millibars. You're probably talking, that's probably a minimum hurricane equivalent. It's going to be right on the borderline of a Cat 2, Cat 3 Australian scale. Probably more Cat 2 than anything, right around 75, 80 mile per hour, 1 minute sustained. The Euro is about the same, 986 millibars right into the Queensland coastline. So again, you're probably talking a Category 1 hurricane equivalent from the Euro. CMC looks to be right about the same intensity, 987. So looks like most of your major models, and we'll take a look at the Icon as, yeah, the 6Z Icon right now is the Icon is the outlier out of all of the models that we've looked at. Icon is suggesting that this isn't even going to touch the Queensland coastline. It's actually going to be able to get lucky and intensify back to a borderline Category 2 and is actually going to split that narrow corridor between the two highs and actually get poleward. So the Icon right now being the outlier.
Well, they might be right. It might actually head further north than expected. That is what I was expecting earlier. But it really depends on that second high pressure that comes in from the Great Australian Bight.
Yep, and that particular high pressure on this graphic is this one that is just to the west of Tasmania. That is going to be your linchpin for the next 4 to 5 days, as this is going to become the dominant high. It's going to move east in between Queensland and New Zealand. And how quick it shoves this high pressure out of New Zealand and this high pressure becomes your dominant steering current, that is going to be the big linchpin on what it's going to do with Alfred, of whether it's going to actually pull to the south like the Icon may be suggesting, or if it's going to follow the solution that the GFS, the Canadian, and the UR are suggesting, and is actually going to pull it into the Queensland coastline.
I provided some additional graphics, Tim, wind, rain, information, intensity.
Okay, and we
And
could
I
take a
know
look at
wind
them.
shear.
And we could take a look at them just briefly as we are getting a little short on time here, but we will take a look at this. And these are from the Hurricane Model A. So we will pull up the rainfall, and the rainfall is going to be one of the big concerns. Yeah, the wind threat may be fading, but that rain threat is still going to be very prevalent. And take a look at the HAFS A model, one of the newer hurricane models that was released earlier last year. This goes out, looks like for the next maybe 2 to 3 days. Some of the coastlines of Queensland, they're getting 16 inches in some spots.
The rainfall is going to be significant, and I'm waiting to see whether any of the dam operators will open the floodgates.
And if I remember my conversions right, David, 16 inches, that is 400 millimeters?
Yeah, I think that's being conservative. I think it's definitely going to be higher. I'm probably looking at anywhere above 200 millimeters.
All right, and taking a quick look at some of the wind impacts. Most of the wind impacts might be offshore, but obviously as we get closer to actual landfall, we're going to start seeing those gale force and borderline hurricane force winds get a lot closer to the coastline. Looking out, this is for the next 5 days. So we do see those 50 knot winds, borderline hurricane force winds right along the Queensland coastline there. Looks like it is going to be north of Brisbane, up in that area overall. But obviously, due to the size of Alfred and its wind field, you're obviously going to see tropical storm force winds well away from the center and well further inland than just where the actual center is at.
And the GFS precipitation are just doing a sounding. The area south of the New South Wales Queensland border could see anything up to or above 600 millimeters, but the model updates every 6 hours.
All right. Well, any final thoughts from Martine?
It's interesting to see the HAFS model show pretty strengthened on that graph you showed before.
Which one?
The wind graph that showed it briefly this hurricane and then get it back.
So the with the wind graphic or the rain graphic?
The wind one. Wind.
The wind graphic, yeah, we can pull that up right quick again.
It showed it weakened slightly and re-strengthened on that graph.
So yeah, that's the winds there from one of the hurricane models that is for about 5 days out. So that is where your possible winds are going to be at. And those 50 to 64 knot winds hugging the Queensland coastline there north of Brisbane. So I'm pretty sure, David, you're going to be seeing some very blustery conditions in your region by the time we get into Thursday, Friday, when Alfred is either going to be coming into shore or could be threatening the coastline.
I'm also wondering whether I'm going to see any storm activity, but strong wind, the rain. But as I said, Alfred is edging closer towards the coast. And as I mentioned earlier, the key question is, when is it going to slow? How long is it going to slow down for before it turns to the southeast? And 72 hours will be 260 nautical miles off Cape Morton. and that is within the 300 nautical mile wind radius of the centre. Clockwise winds out to 300 nautical miles. So I'm about probably 280. So I expect to see Harvey Bay, Moreton Bay, boarding under the marine wind warning. The eastern side of Stradbroke Island will come into the warning. I don't know when, it'll probably be Monday, Tuesday, and including the Gold Coast waters. There's no warnings for New South Wales at this point in time. I'm expecting the Bureau to expand the severe weather warning. It's only for damaging winds. I think we'll see rainfall included in the warning and possibility of a flood watch.
All right, and that's going to wrap it up our time here on Force 13. Again, thank you guys for tuning in this afternoon over on the Queensland coastline. For those that were watching in around the Mauritius Reunion area, stay safe over there. Good afternoon to you guys. And here in the East Coast of the United States, where we are getting close to early morning sunrise, as we're going to leave you guys with the final looks on Alfred, threatening the Queensland coastline. Again, this has been Force 13 Live. My name is Timothy Ringo. You guys stay safe, and hopefully Nathan will be back with some either more live coverage or an update or a tropical weather bulletin. Have a good night, guys.